We also have remember we have the sales and operations planning module, and where students will first work on smaller problems like production planning, staff scheduling, transportation planning, and so on and so forth. These smaller problems, and then put them up together into an integrated logistic network design problem, right? And so they're going to learn the prescriptive analytics in this module, right? Including the linear and integer programming, right? The solvers, the sensitivity analysis, so on. And eventually they're going to solve a realistic logistic network design problem for coach. And this is going to take time, about 6 hours, because you have to explain all these models. And homework, right, is for students to redesign coaches, right, logistic network to reduce cost and improve customer service. Now, the model they come up in the end, right, is realistic but simplified, right, and solvable in Excel in just seconds. And I can share all the modeling and Excel spreadsheets. Now, for distribution analytics, the learning objective, right, is the integrated inventory, transportation, and warehousing planning, right, in distribution logistics. Then students will evaluate, right, and compare different distribution strategies, such as the pull strategy versus the push strategy, right? The push strategy really holds inventories and most downstream of the retail stores, right? The pull strategy will pull inventory back to the DCs and use drop shipping to meet customer demands. Right, the case is the Vesta virus, right? Push and pull distribution strategies. This one won the first prize in Inform's case writing competition, 2014. And lecture time is about 1 to 2 hours. And homework, right, is students will use the data provided in the case, right, to analyze and compare, right, the push versus pull models for different stores and different products, and to help, right, this major US wireless carrier, right, to make the transition, right, from push model to pull model and save $1 billion in inventory. For distribution logistics, we also have the game student can play, right, the shortage and newspaper gaming. The learning objective would be shortage gaming, such as panic orders, right, the order inflation, right, and hoarding, and also the bullwhip effect, because of the order inflation, right? The students also experience the competition, right, often for the first time in the courses, right, and simulate the prisoner's dilemma, right? They also understand the value of information, because if you know there's a shortage or not, it's going to significantly affect your decision, right? I also say a little bit more about competition, right? So in all our course modules, we tell students how to identify problems and solve problems, right? Often they only consider their own companies. They don't consider the outside environment. But in this game, if your competitors order more, you are going to get less, right? So you will have to consider your competitors' actions. And the other learning objective, right, is supply rationing for efficiency and fairness. So they understand why you have to do rationing and how to do rationing. And we also use the game to simulate the news vendor models. All right, so the game is Hunger Chain Simulation. It won the best Decision Science Journal of Innovative Education Teaching Brief Award 2021. It takes about 1 to 3 hours to play this. Okay, some testimonials from students' perspective, right? The Hunger Game was very interactive and brought critical thinking to the activities, and students really like the proactive with critical thinking and really reflection of the real world competition. So competition is something that really impressed them. And because of competition, the game is full of excitement and full of surprises, because their decisions affect each other. Here's an instructor. The game successfully boosted student engagement in my online class. which helped me improve my teaching evaluation. Let's talk about the forecasting and planning under uncertainty, the pandemic influenza, and teach both demand forecasting and production planning. Right. The learning objective is to first predict disastrous events and then make decisions under uncertainty. Because the outbreak of the pandemic is very uncertain, right? And so it's very hard to determine how much vaccine to produce, right? Companies wants to make money, use the just-in-time, right, strategy that is just to meet the minimum demand, right? Because they have to bear the loss of the wasted dosages. The government, on the other hand, want to save life, so which is they want to use the just-in-case strategy, which is to produce to the most to the maximum, right? So there's a misalignment of incentives, right, between the companies and the government. So the question is how to align commerce with public health. So the case is the pandemic influenza, just-in-time versus just-in-case strategies. The lecture time is 3 hours because you have to cover demand forecasting, production planning, and incentive alignment, right? The strict topics. The homework is students, right, to design incentive schemes, right, to align the conflict interest, right, the conflicting interest between commerce and public health. All right, now supply chain collaboration contracts, right? This actually is a hard topic to teach, but very important, right? Very important. And so we designed this supply chain strategy game to simulate supply chain contracts and collaboration in the fresh flower business, right? What we say is live as one or die as two, right? So this game is going to put the student into a typical paradox in supply chain management. That is how to work with your trading partners, right? Your trading partners is your friend, is your collaborator, right? Because you need to work with them, right, to compete with other supply chains. However, because your trading partners is also your enemy because you have conflict of interest, you fight with them all the time, right? So the objective, right, is to learn how to carefully manage the relationship to avoid the backstabbing and achieve win-win, right? So this game actually covers a lot of learning goals, right? Including, of course, supply chain collaboration by contracts, right? Including the push contracts, the pull contracts, and the advanced purchasing discount contracts. But it also covers, it's a total business game. It also covers the interface between supply chain and marketing. So you have to plan them jointly. Supply chain competitive strategies. How do we compete with the other supply chain? And also international supply chains, because the fresh flower business is international. And also you have to cover, you will cover negotiation and teamwork. Negotiation actually is a very important component in supply chain management, which is missing from all the other modules, but it's covered here. And the game is the floor park simulation, and it's going to last about 6 hours because we designed this game actually for executive programs. Okay, student testimonials. So supply chain strategy game, which is floor park, right, in the second half of the course, were exceptional learning experience. And the best part of the floor park simulation was the conflicting motivations between the firms in the supply chain. There must be a careful balance between the self-interested actions to capture the maximum amount of value from the supply chain. He's talking about the conflict of interest, and collaboration to compete against the other supply chains. And some instructors used the game, achieved a great effect. One instructor said, for this year's EMBA teaching, I got 5.0 out of 5.0. Actually, this never happened in that program. The game was awesome and is enthusiastically received by my students. So this is the last module I want to talk about, the supply chain job opportunities and requirements. This module is built on the job market study I talk about at the beginning of this workshop. So essentially, we put all the data right, into a database. We build it by Power BI, the dashboards, so student can play with the filters, play with the data, and answer the following questions, right? So, what is the most demanded and highest paid supply chain jobs? And what are the most demanded knowledge, skills, both soft and technical skills, and software tools, and also job responsibilities and preparation. So the data is based on the 10,000 plus job ads we collected, and the visualization, the dashboards are built by Power BI. So the homework, right, is for students to do a job data research, right, to find for the jobs they are interested, right, what are how many jobs are there, and the salary statistics, and also the job requirements. I also get the students to share the insights, right, and to learn from each other. Okay, student testimonials. This is very effective. Students really like this. Right. One said that I find the topic relating to job market analysis to be extremely relevant, and the job analysis allowed me to self-reflect and apply my own needs to our assignment. I like the job market analysis, right, as I find it interesting and relevant to the current job market, right, because the data is most recent, right, and the job market analysis allows for filtering in regions based on compensations and the most demand or highest paid jobs. It also lists the special skills and specific knowledge of area you are interested in. So this is good comparison tool, right? When analyzing or even looking for specific data in a certain region or for specific functions as well. First thing I want to say is the job market is changing, right, towards analytics and data skills. However, the analytics or data skills, right, required for the jobs is not exactly the same as those we covered in our classrooms. That's why a new curriculum should be designed, should be developed, right, to meet the changing job market requirements. Right? Specifically, we'll talk about storytelling and how effective eye-opening is, and problem definition, right, how to define and discover problems. These are important skills, not really covered adequately in our curriculum. And then we have a synopsis of various modules on different supply chain functions, right, from procurement to production, right, to inventories, to demand management, and of course, overall integrated supply chain planning, right? We'll talk about the learning objectives, so you know where to fit in, and teaching effectiveness, my student feedbacks, right? And I share a few exciting moments. Now, finally, what I want to say is, right, don't fail, but ignite.